Felicitations, malefactors, and my mom is like,
Be nice.
not being nice. My mom's not being nice.
Hey, is Shabos underway there where you are? This is my friend that told you about this, the Reformed Jew. He says, hey, is Shabos underway there where you are? Actually.
Yeah, they're talking about Shabbos.
Oh, that's funny.
Actually.
I think they're talking about
It
Shabbat.
seems that they don't
Oh no.
observe.
Nice, I have a torch now.
Yeah, that's funny. Do most people like assume that like everybody felt like all the Jews follow Shabbat?
I don't know. He is a Jew, but he's a Reformed Jew, and he didn't know what kind you guys were. He asked, and I said I didn't know either. He said, "Are they Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, Reconstructionist?"
He's so interested.
He
or
is.
nothing. I don't know.
He's a convert to Judaism. He doesn't come from a Jewish family at all.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I
and-
guess.
I said, I don't know. They aren't highly religious by my reckoning, but come by the traditions by family. I think they do go to temple now and then and keep traditions up, but not that one.
This
apparently.
is how
No. We
I
very rarely go to temples
cave
because we're not paying for tickets.
without being able to
I mean,
place
like,
torches.
honestly, if maybe
I
the
used
tickets
two.
were free, I would take them like to the kids'
I put two in my-
portion of the temple, the temple service.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna be nice to the kids.
Nothing is
but,
impossible if you
I have
believe.
no interest in sitting and listening to a service. It's really boring.
Aw.
Quote,
He's so interested. He
a
said,
quote from a self-help
he said,
YouTuber,
oh
Gray
well,
still
I was going to
plays.
offer to telecon with you and them if they had a weekly
Yeah, he's not
observance
actually
that they did.
A self-help
He's a
YouTuber.
sweetie.
Nice.
He's one of my
Oh my
best
God.
friends, really, one of my closest
Oh my.
friends. His name is also David. We have a lot of
no.
Davids around here, don't we?
There's a skeleton.
But, huh?
Skeletons are
It is.
possibly
When
the
my
most
grandma was
annoying
alive,
mob.
She was the one who took me to temple.
They really set
And
for
she always lit the Shabbat
trouble.
candles with me Friday night.
Yeah.
So I did buy Shabbat candles in Israel, which I had every intention of lighting on Friday nights. But
Yeah, this is what I'm
started-
doing.
I got you.
Yeah. Eventually,
Boom.
I bought one for. You're supposed to use
Now I have-
her family member. So
Like,
we
but
need
why
to
do you need so many stone
Shabbat-
bricks?
Shabbat candles. I remember. 'Cause I just remember it brings back memories of my grandmother.
Yeah.
When I would sleep over, we always used to put like a napkin on our head and say the prayer with her. Not that I remember the prayer even, but you know we
That's
used to
cool.
do that. Yeah. And then my neighbor is from Israel, so they're pretty religious. So she would take Zoe for Shabbat dinners until she stopped behaving as well, because her husband didn't have any patience.
I got something really, really weird that happened in England that I probably should share with you just for interest, like, you know, because it was interesting. And it's freaky. It's really freaky.
Mm-hmm.
So
And what?
my friend has
My
this
knees
chart,
tall
and he
in the
does
background.
this divination with a pendulum, you know, and the pendulum will swing around to say yes, and it'll do
Right.
this and that all by itself, and he's not trying to make it do it, but
Right.
it was.
Not
Did
pendulum.
I tell you he was speaking English to it, but it was giving him using English
Oh,
letters,
you told me.
consonants. It was giving him Hebrew letter
Yes,
words.
you told me that. Yeah.
Well, the craziest thing. Did I tell you what happened with the name?
What
No.
happened? I think you
So I told him that I'd always been able to expose spirits as charlatans, that they were posing to be certain people that lived, but they weren't, because I would ask them what the name of God is, and they usually won't answer, or they'll be afraid or something, and all of a
What the
sudden
name
it'll
of what
become
is?
what the name of God is.
Oh.
Ask them what's God's name, because if it's some human that lived, they'll probably have some idea that they had when they were alive, or if they've had some wonderful experience afterward, maybe they'll have some interesting insight to offer, but there's nothing scary about asking them what's God's name, right?
Right.
But they end up very fearful and unable to answer, and weird things happen when you ask that. So I said, let's see what happens if we ask it that. Because he was dealing with this spirit that said it had a female name. It was, I forgot what it was, like Maya or Nora or something. I forget what the name was. But anyway,
This is just
he said,
what
well, I
I
guess
do
that
in this
couldn't hurt.
world.
So he did a session with me right there. And he was asking questions, you know, am I speaking to this, you know, this person? I can't remember her name still, but Yes. And then, okay, well, are you able to speak with me for a while? Well, yes. And he would ask different questions, and after a while, he couldn't help himself. He said it this way. He said, what is the name of the Most High God? Are you willing to tell me? First he asked, are you willing to tell me the name of the Most High God? And I said, yes. And I said, yes. That wasn't expected by me. What do you mean,
Letting them
yes?
talk about
Usually
religion.
no is they won't do it, but then we got a series of 15 Hebrew characters, 15 letters. I was like, what's that supposed to be? You just would never believe it. You would never believe when you put that into a translating program, what shows up. Blew my mind. First of all, we put in most of them, but we still had the last few to put in, and I accidentally bumped the button to translate, and it came up with YEHOVAH, and then a bunch of gibberish. And I said, that's weird. But then when we got the rest of the characters in and did translate, there was no more gibberish. It was only 6 letters. JEHOVAH. How do you translate 15 Hebrew consonantal characters into just those 6 letters? And why, when it's incomplete, does the sequence only give you the Y at the beginning and a bunch of gibberish? Craziest thing I've ever seen. And I said, well, that's a first. I still don't understand how that's possible. How can you possibly translate 15 Jewish letters into Jehovah? What? It's usually the Tetragrammaton. There's only 4. And this isn't 16. It's not like 4 characters per character or some crazy
and you
code.
Said usually they don't name a god either.
Huh?
And you said usually they don't name a god either.
Usually they won't. Like this woman was doing automatic writing, thinking she was talking to her husband. And I told her, well, why don't you try this to see if that's really him? What would he say if you asked him the name of God? She goes, maybe Great Spirit. He was into Native American spiritually stuff. He did this deathbed conversion when he was out of his mind with a priest. Maybe he'll say Jesus or something else. I don't know. I said, well, it'd be interesting to find out, wouldn't it? If he's crossed over, what has he seen? What does he know? Why don't you ask? I said, but you're going to hate me when you do because I think it won't turn out the way you expect. She goes, I don't know about that. Later, she showed me her notebook, all the conversations they'd had, and it's weird because you would see her handwriting is very neat, and then you'd see this shaky, weird printing, and then you'd see her handwriting. It was really, really wild. And so she asked, what is God's name in the conversation? And she didn't get an answer. And she goes, why won't you answer me? In her pen. And the word fear appeared. That's the kind of creepy stuff that usually happens when people ask that, right? That's what I'm used to. Fear. And she goes, my husband would never say that. Who are you really? And the name came. Azazel. Azazel. Also creeped me out. I had a lot of...
That's the devil, right? Azazel, or...
Well, let me explain. That's not that simple. But yeah, maybe. But that's not that simple. But so here's the thing. When I was a kid, from the age of 3 to 15, without having ever read certain things, I was being bothered by these unseen things, and it was a horrible thing, and I won't go into it. But yeah, that name was bouncing around in my head the whole time. I don't know why, but it was always bouncing around in my head from somewhere. Azazel. I didn't know why. Well, it does appear in the Bible, but it's the name that the Israelites would give to a goat that would then carry their sins away from the camp of Israel. They would release a goat from the camp and call it Azazel, and it would carry their sins away. That's a tradition that's interesting and unusual, right? But that's one that they had back in the days of Moses and Joseph and stuff. I mean Jacob and stuff. Not Jacob. Who's the guy? Joshua. Moses and Joshua and people like that.
Joshua and Jacob.
But back in those days,
Yeah, I'm
they
getting
they would
what
send
they're
out a
talking.
goat called Azazel to carry their sins away. Well, that tradition came from the book of Enoch, and that's a book that I had not read until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I had never read it, but I had this name bouncing around in my head for no reason that I knew of. Then she comes up with this name in her automatic writing and freaks out and stops doing it. Then I read the books of Enoch, and that's where you find that name again is the name of the ringleader of the Watchers, the angels that came down to earth and made it with... Yeah, their ringleader's name was Azazel. So in that way, if you want to say that's the devil, well, I guess you could say that.
Oh, wow.
Is that crazy?
Yeah, that's
According
crazy.
to the books of Enoch, yeah, how did it bounce around in my head since I was 3? What? And then, but according to the books of Enoch, Azazel was captured and bound and buried in the sands in the Middle East somewhere. It tells you like what happened to him physically and where he is. But it says that from his place of captivity, he can reach the minds of people. And I'm like, this is creepy. I'm reading this in this ancient document that they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, old, you know. This name being that person, that spirit being that was bound and put in those sands and that still can reach out to the minds of people from its captive position. And then I'm like reading all this going, something was reaching into my mind and giving me that name when I was a little kid. That's freaky. Absolutely freaky.
Wow.
So I expected some craziness like that to go on. And that's not what happened. This spirit that my friend was talking to gave him these 15 different
So
consonants.
what do you, like, how do you interpret that then?
I can't. It blows my mind. I don't know.
Do you think it was a real spirit, or?
Well, my friend does not speak Hebrew. He does not understand any Hebrew. We used a program on a phone. How
which
could he
program?
subconsciously have affected his...
Excuse me, sire. What program did you use to translate such
I'm
things?
sorry I don't remember the name of it, but I can look it up in a moment.
If it was Google
He sent
Translate,
he
count
sent
me
me a
out.
screenshot, so I'll be able to tell you. But it wasn't Google Translate, no.
Oh, okay.
However, you probably get the same result with Google Translate with those characters. It's crazy. And we tried it a few times, independently, separately. Tried it a few times, so you get the same thing. But this spirit gives us these. He had the English alphabet, and it was going to the English consonants. And then when you have the little keyboard with this one particular translating program he has, when you have the little keyboard, it shows the English alphabet, and it has imposed on it Hebrew characters. And you know, there's 22 in the Hebrew alphabet, but there's 26, I guess, in the English alphabet.
Yeah.
So it'll show
The
that
English
sometimes
alphabet
you'll see
uses
the
the
same
Latin
Hebrew
alphabet.
characters show up for different letters because it would correspond with those different letters. Well, when he typed in all the letters that we got in the sequence that we got, we wrote them in from right to left just to be, traditional. But when he typed them in the right order and the keyboard produced the Hebrew characters, would you go away? When the keyboard produced the Hebrew characters and then we hit the translate button, it gives us 6 letters, Jehova-H. I'm like, what in the world? This doesn't make any
Darn
sense
accident.
to me.
You made
Okay,
a
I'll tell
chiseled
you the name of
stone
the
brick instead of a
program now.
normal stone brick.
I'll tell you the name of the program because I'll look for the screenshot he sent me. Christopher White. Here he is. Here's my brother from another mother.
The brother from another mother. That's actually
I might be
something
called-
that's
look.
true. It's called a half brother.
It's this program. It might be called Keyman.
It's Keyman.
And do you see this? Oh no, that's a new one he showed me. I'm sorry. You see how it has the traditional Hebrew alphabet on the keyboard?
Yeah.
That's not the new one he found. Here it is. It doesn't say what it is, but notice that all the characters are there, and that's what it gives you. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.